I've been on my grind just to live it out. Say what's on your mind just to hear it loud. Everybody knows me, really that's the old me. Going through some changes right here and now. I've been on my grind just to live it out. Say what's on your mind just to hear it loud. Everybody knows me, really that's the old me.
Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. This is just a conversation. We're up here to bug out, laugh, and hopefully help some people. That's what this is all about. What's up, everybody? We back with another episode of the Dope Individuals podcast. My name is Eric. I'm up here with another dope individual. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nessa Cartagena. I am a financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual. I am from Allentown, Pennsylvania, born and raised.
But she went to Liberty,
I
apparently.
went to Liberty. I would say I'm more of a Bethlehem girl, but very familiar with the Allentown area. Grew up here, too. And I'm really just so passionate about making an impact in my community, spreading financial literacy in my community, and
Big
just
facts.
empowering, educating, and inspiring my clients to live their life by design and not by default.
Hey, is that like on your resume or something? She's over here talking about, I don't know what to say. I'm sitting there like, just, you know what I mean? Give yourself the introduction. That should sound rehearsed.
No.
I'll be honest.
No,
that was
rehearsal.
That was off the cuff?
That was off the dome.
That was impressive.
Yep.
That was really impressive. Yeah, so listen, today's topic, we're going to be talking about money for the most of it. We're going to talk about some other shit too, but money is the reason you're up here, because when it comes to financial advice, you're the person. Mm-hmm. So I found you on my cousin's podcast, Elevate With Us, and I was like, yo, I got to get this girl up here. She sounds like she knows what the fuck she's talking about. and then you're young. Like, you're younger than me. How old are you?
I'm 23.
23. So you're 23 years old, and you were giving me game. You know what I mean? And I got a couple years on you. So how did you even get involved in money? Because where you come from, which is Allentown, there aren't a lot of people who, one, have money, two, are financially literate, and three, don't have a fear of money. That's a huge thing too.
Right.
So how do you end up here?
So I would say that my passion for money and wanting to help people with money really came from like a young age. For me, I mean, I grew up, pretty much in a household where we lived paycheck to paycheck. We were low middle class, and it was really hard getting by. I started working when I was 14 years old. As soon as I could get a job, I literally ran to my high school and got working papers.
That sounds like...
I was like, I need to start working. And I would say I didn't learn about money because my parents taught me. I more so learned about money because I learned from their mistakes and what they did wrong.
That's what it's all about, learning from other people instead of just repeating it.
So I basically took that, the things that I saw went wrong and what they did, and I took that as a lesson, and I applied that to my own life. And growing up, like I said, I lived in a house where we lived paycheck to paycheck, low middle class. I know my mom did everything she possibly could.
Pardon the interruption. We had a phone call because I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. All right, where were you?
So I was just talking about the way that, I grew up with money. So that is probably one of the first questions that I love to ask my clients too when we first meet is, how do you think that the way you grew up has affected the way that you view and see money today? And for me personally, I know I grew up low middle class, pretty much living paycheck to paycheck. So literally as soon as I could get my working papers, I ran to my high school, got my working papers, and got my first job at 14 years old. And I would just
Where were you working at?
I was a hostess at a restaurant that's no longer open.
At 14 years old?
Yes.
They let you, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
I had my working papers. So
most people like Dorney Park or Chuck E. Cheese.
Yep. And then after being a hostess, I was a hostess for like, I don't know, maybe 7-8 months. And then I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts, I worked there for a year. So that was like my first real job, I guess you could really say. But in general, I was just saying, I think I didn't learn about money because my parents taught me about money. I pretty much learned from their mistakes, and I saw what went wrong and what they were doing with their money and how they handled their finances. And I just knew growing up, my mom did everything she could in her power to give me the best life possible with what she did have and what she did make. Yeah. But I knew that if I wanted more for my future self and my future family, I had to start. I had to start saving now.
Yeah,
I had to start early. I was like, I don't know where I'm going with my future, but I know the lifestyle that I want to live is going to require me to start building my assets now.
Yeah.
And like being 14,
23 years old, talking about assets.
20, I was 14 years old and I was just thinking like, I don't know, but I need money to live the life that I want to live.
Right.
I don't want money to ever be a burden to not only myself I don't ever want to say no to myself when I want to do things, whether it's go on a vacation or treat myself to something, or even for my future family and when I have kids. I never want money to be an issue. Or a question.
That shit makes the world go round. It doesn't cure all the problems, but
right.
It makes everything just a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. So I definitely
gives you
resonate
peace
with
of
that.
mind, stability. You know what I mean? Like less stress, less anxiety.
My whole goal is like time freedom. Typically, when you have money,
more time.
You can pay to put people in certain places, so that way you can free up your mornings or free up your afternoons. So I definitely resonate with that. So why? Okay, so you get into it and you're like, I want to prepare for something that I know I want, but I don't know what it looks like yet. Why a financial advisor?
Okay, so wanting to prepare. Okay, so in general, a lot of people 9 times out of 10 have goals that they want to accomplish, right?
Right.
We'll sit down, we'll talk about their short-term, midterm, midterm, and long-term goals, right? And 9 times out of 10, I'm like, okay, do you know how much this is going to cost you to accomplish? Have you started saving for these goals? Most times they're like, no, I don't know. And so that's really where I come in, and I'm like, all right, you want to accomplish X, Y, and Z, right? Now, let's back into the numbers. Let's take a 360 bird's eye view perspective of where we stand today. Mm-hmm. And so really what I tell people is money in itself has no value, but the life that we dream of does, right?
Big facts.
9 times out of 10, we need money to accomplish those dreams. So whether or not maybe where you're going or not, there's going to be changes in your life that come up within the next few years. You're going to need money for those. Whether you know what it is that you want to accomplish or not, you're going to need money as time goes by. And you don't want your money for your goals in 5 years, 10 years sitting in your savings account.
Which depreciates on a daily basis.
Yeah. And so in general, I really am so passionate about just educating people on the tools and resources that are available to them to save their money in different places so that, our money can start working for us. I always tell people, work for your money once, then let it work for you.
Word. I like that.
So in general, a financial advisor really just brings about the bigger picture of, where you stand today and where we're going so that we know we have a game plan.
So your ultimate goal, even though you're like, I'm doing this, I'm learning this for me, but your goal was to turn it around and teach other people as well. Mm-hmm. That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. Not a lot of people, it's very hard to not be selfish in this life when everybody's like in a crabs in a barrel mentality. So I like that. I like that a lot. How do you like the work? Is it strenuous trying to help people who may not be where they say they want to go? You know what I mean? Like where they're not in a position just yet to actually make these short-term goals come to fruition to get to the next one.
So I love what I do. Literally love what I do. I'm not gonna lie. I have to stop myself from talking about work because it's literally like I live, breathe, eat, sleep, work. Which is
I think it's a woman thing.
But honestly, like it's
especially
I love what I do, and like my clients are always like literally at the top of my mind. Like I'm always thinking about what I need to do for them. They literally are priority in my life, like top priority in my life. And so I'm always thinking about them, always, I need to get back to this person. I need to make sure I do this for them. Always thinking about them. And so in general, could it get a little stressful sometimes because I'm thinking about them all the time. And I literally, on my way here, I was thinking of my one client on my way here, and I was like, oh my God, I need to message her. I'm just like, just message her and tell her I'm thinking about her. Like, I'm always thinking about them. Like, how are they doing? Like, because sometimes we go a few months without talking to each other.
Right.
But we do make it a point, though, to get together every 6 months to a year minimum.
I was going to say that. What's the frequency of these visits like? Because, it might be a little bit different for somebody who has, like, millions to watch opposed to, a couple thousand after, a couple months. So, like, you said every 6 months. What do these visits look like?
So in general, every 6 months to a year, my clients and I are getting back together to kind of just come back to the drawing board. Okay, how are we tracking towards these goals that we talked about, right? How is the savings feeling? How is this feeling, etc. Did we get a new job? Did we get a raise? Are you moving to a new apartment? Are you buying a house? Are you pregnant? Are you, starting a family? Are you getting married? So really, we're just like updating each other on life. Like every 6 months to a year, it's just like a huge life update. and honestly, though, most of my clients, we are connected on social media, so I know what's going on in their lives.
Yeah.
Which I love. Like I'm constantly in the know of what's going on in all of their lives. But
Does it get frustrating when you see them like, all right, we just talked about this last month, and you're out here doing this? Does that get frustrating?
I'll be like, you know what? Like we just talked about you like going out a little less and spending a little less on dining out, and I see you going out every weekend and dining out every weekend.
Yeah.
Like let's come back.
Yeah.
Let's refocus. Let's come back to the goals. Let's come back. And I'm a huge advocate of living for today, but also saving for tomorrow.
Right.
I'm never going to tell people, hey, I made you this great plan. Looks like you can't go outside. Mm-hmm. Never going to tell someone that. Because if someone told me that, I'd be like, I'd be like, F you, yeah. Bye. Like, I'm going to go spend my money. And so in general, like, I'm a huge advocate for traveling. I love going out to eat. That's one thing that I like never say no, never say no to. Like, I'm always down to go out to eat.
We have each other on Instagram. That's how we connected. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of like, when you're moving around, like through your Instagram story, I'm like, this girl lives like a fucking, like, you know what I mean? She's out there doing the damn
My
thing.
clients will message me and they're going to be like, wow, she's really outside. Yeah, like she's out here.
Moving around. But, I mean, this is the perfect age to do it. You know what I mean? You don't have no real responsibilities but for whatever you want to put on your plate. Mm-hmm. So that's the awesome thing, so that you have the freedom to do those things. A couple years ago, my wife and I, we had a bunch of debt. And my brother-in-law, for Christmas, he gave us a book, the Dave Ramsey book. You ever read it?
Okay. I've never read it.
No?
I'm not going to talk much about Dave Ramsey, but
wait, why not?
he has some good things, but
they're very drastic measures.
Yes, there's other drastic things. Like I remember him saying like you shouldn't see the inside of a restaurant if you have like significant amount of debt.
Yo,
that I do like. No, I don't agree with it.
The overall message, the book starts out with, you live like no one else so you can live like no one else. So he's basically telling people like, look, man, you're in this boat because of your choices. So how about we start undoing these choices, and it's going to take some hard work. You might have to live on a rice and beans budget for a while, but you could be, debt free in, a certain amount of months after you run through the program, run through his program and everything. But I will say, I know it's not for everybody, because not everybody has the mental fortitude to live on a rice and beans budget every day.
Right. It takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah. And I would say for a person, I'm a lot like you, where it's like I want to move around. I want to be able to experience.
I love experiences.
And my wife is a little bit different, where she's like, yo, we can do this. And I'm just like, no, the fuck we can't. Like, yo, a whole year without going anywhere or being able to go out where, like, we can go out every 3 months. It's tough, but it is possible. So what do you, like, how do you help your clients? Do you help them set a budget? Because that's what we had to do. We had to create a budget for ourselves and then basically live within that budget. Hey, Axel, relax. It's our neighbors. He barks at everybody. So what do you do with your clients? How do you help them go, like, set these goals? Right. How do you help them achieve those goals?
Right. So in general, the first time I'm meeting people, really what we're sitting down and doing is talking about these goals. You want to accomplish this in 2 years, this in 5 years, this in 10 years, this in 15, et cetera, right? So we're talking about all their goals and what's finding out their why. I think that's super important, is like you need to have a purpose and why you're doing something.
Right.
If you don't have a why, it's going to make it really hard to keep going.
And especially if it's only money motivated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Finding out what's really deeply like important to my clients is so important to me. And also I like to learn about their habits. So like I like to ask them, like, how did you grow up around money? Like did your family talk about money? Did they not talk about money? So in general, we're talking about that in that first conversation.
Can I interject for a second?
Yeah.
So when you ask them, how did you grow up around money? What's like the overall, what do they say? What's the overall consensus of it?
Most people are like, I don't know. It's always different. It's always different. But most people, I would say, my parents never taught me about money. I don't know. I don't know anything. Like, I kind of just, money was never talked about. Maybe it was never an issue in my household. Like, we were never maybe
You never maybe
at least
poor or something.
poor or
Yeah.
living paycheck to paycheck, but they never taught me anything about money. Like, I got this job with all these benefits and stuff. Like, what the hell is a 401k? I don't know how to contribute to it. What's a Roth 401k? What's the match? What in general,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things. Like, they're like, I literally don't know what I'm doing. And so I would say that's pretty much the consensus.
So
is people don't know.
How is that for you when you're like, oh shit? Like, is it one of those feelings like we're starting from ground zero?
That's actually my favorite, is
Yeah?
when people are like, I have never learned anything at all. I'm like, perfect. That's exactly what I'm here for. So that's like, I'm like, we're going to
I'm
go
your
through
girl.
this. Yeah. I'm like, that's literally why I'm here. We're going to go through this together. And so, I'm in that first conversation too, I'm asking people, okay, send me your work benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, most people, when they start a new job, they get a work benefits pamphlet or PDF that gets sent to them.
Yeah.
That shows all their benefits and all their retirement benefits and all the insurances that the job offers and all that stuff, right? So I'm like, all right, send me these. Also, like, let's look at a pay stub together. Let's see what deductions are coming out of your pay stub. All of these things, right? Any, like, and we get into the weeds, but if they have statements for accounts and all these things. So we're looking at a lot of different things, but we're also going to go over, most importantly, a balance sheet in that first meeting. So just looking at, okay, like I said, we know we want to accomplish X, Y, and Z, right? Where is our money standing today?
Yeah.
So just looking at, okay, like, do we have a checking, a savings? Do we have a 401k? Do we have, mutual funds or IRAs? So looking at all of those things, and then also looking at, so those are going to be your assets. And then we also look at your liabilities. So what do we owe? What are we
Yeah.
paying back? Do we have credit cards that we're paying off? Do we have a car loan? Do we have personal loans, student loans, et cetera, right? So looking at that, and then we'll be able to calculate your net worth after doing all of that.
That's probably not a fun part for like, holy shit.
Like, most people, I mean, and it really depends. Like I said, everybody's different, but I would say the biggest, most people who have negative net worth, most of it is due to student loans.
Student loans, I was
Yeah.
going to say that.
Student loans is probably like the biggest, or a mortgage.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's usually like the biggest liabilities that I see. And then at the end of the meeting, we're closing out that first meeting by going over a monthly budget. So just going over, okay, what's coming in the door, what's going out the door every month, and what are we left with to start putting towards these goals that we say are so important to us, right? So that's the first meeting that we're having.
So is there like a system that you have? Like us personally, so we still live on a budget. We've been doing it
Right.
since the pandemic, so about 3 years. And we take our cash out every single week. The only thing we leave in our accounts is our bills. Everything else we pull out in cash. Minus like stuff that goes to investments and things like that. But like our savings that we keep on hand or our vacation fund and stuff like that, we pull all that stuff out. So that way our money's not being intertangled, because people have a habit. You go out, you just keep swiping your card, and before you know it, you get to the end of the month, you're like, holy shit, we're missing $200, and we're guilty
Cash,
of
you're
that.
like, well, once it's gone, it's gone.
Exactly. And then you got the money that's allocated to everything. So we like to use cash because it's a little bit easier to keep track of things. Is that something that you prefer for your clients, or do you kind of just like, hey, here's the budget and, use it responsibly?
I mean, everybody's different, and it really depends on like psychologically, everybody's wired different, right? That works
Right.
for you guys. I would say I don't really recommend like keeping cash on hand. I'm just telling people just to be mindful. Like I talked about this in the Elevated with Us podcast, but I encourage people to follow like a 60-20-20 budgeting rule on a monthly basis. So if I tell you like, no more than 60% of what you're bringing home every month should be going towards your bills. The next 20% we're going to automate towards savings, investments, and other things. The last 20% is what you have to spend. Keep that last 20% in mind, like that number.
Right.
When you're going out to eat and doing things like that, just don't go over that number.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. And in general, when it comes to like, your savings and stuff, I don't recommend keeping like savings like an emergency fund in cash, just because cash literally isn't doing anything, right?
It depreciates.
So I recommend putting that in a high yield savings account. That way it's going to still be easily accessible, but it's not connected to your regular bank. So it's a little, not that it's harder to access, but transfers take about 2 to 3 business days.
Okay.
It's going to give you more interest, FDIC insured, no minimums to open an account, no fees.
This is the first time I'm hearing of this.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And in a high yield savings account too, I literally like rave about these. You can make buckets in the account. So like you can make a vacation fund bucket. You can make an emergency fund bucket. Literally.
You want to see
instead of having like.
Yeah, you want to see, here it is. Look,
Yep.
We have a savings.
Your high yield savings account can do that for you.
That's exactly how
and
we do it.
the money is going to be collecting interest monthly, and it's at a higher rate than the regular national bank rate.
Okay, because they give like
Pennies.
Yeah, on the fuck. You got 10G sitting there, and they'll give you 30 cents.
Not even maybe 6. Like honestly,
Maybe
like
6.
maybe a nickel. My high yield savings account. So right now, like
if you don't mind me asking,
Yeah.
what is a high yield savings account before we get into
right. So it's just an online. A high yield savings account is a savings account at an online bank.
Okay, so like maybe like a SoFi or Capital One.
Correct. So in general, there's no brick and mortar location. Like you can't go in person to this bank. It's only online. And to get money to and from the account, you have to connect your regular bank account to it.
That. Okay.
Correct. So you just connect it and then you transfer money between the two.
What are these interest rates like?
So your high yield savings account, the national average for the high yield savings is right now 3.5%.
Okay.
Versus the regular banks on your savings are giving you 0.005%. So I think that's actually what my savings rate is at my TD Bank savings. It's like 0.005.
I don't even know. We don't like our savings account with Wells Fargo, so
yeah, it's literally
it's useless.
Right,
it's useless.
Like I think it's so funny because before I made a high yield savings account, before I knew, this was like over 2 years ago, before I knew about high yield savings accounts, I was so happy because the 1 year in my TD Bank high yield savings, or my TD Bank savings, my regular savings account, they sent me like a 1099 for my interest that I got in my savings, and it hit because it hit $10 that I made. And I guess they have to send you one if you make over $10 in interest in your regular savings. And I made that in a year on my savings, and I was so hyped. I was like, oh my God, like I made $10.
Like, this is a waste
I was
of my
like,
time.
wow, like this is like I thought it was awesome. I thought I was
Yeah.
getting such a great deal. Like, wow, like I made $10 in a year. Like this is why I need to keep saving my money in here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I was being scammed.
Yeah.
So in general, then I found out about high yield savings accounts, and I did like more. This was like over 2 years ago. I did more research and stuff like that. I had first opened a high yield savings account with American Express. At the time, they had like a higher rate. Now, keep in mind the rates for high yield savings and interest rates in general for like banks and stuff like that do flow with the economy.
Yeah.
So right now, interest rates are at, going up in general in the economy. And so also the interest rates on our savings are going up.
Okay.
As interest rates go down in the economy, so will the interest rates on the savings.
That was another thing I was going to ask. Is it kind of like a Roth IRA where how much you get in return is pretty much based off of where the economy is, whether the fluctuation?
Yes, but your money's completely safe. It's not an investment account. That really, the only thing that would be affected is just the interest rate in general and how much interest they're going to give you every month in your savings. Yeah,
Diana,
so like
you have to listen to this episode in full.
your money is your money, and it's going to stay that way. But let's say like right now, the interest rate, when I first opened my high yield savings account I have Ally Bank, highly recommend. When I first opened my high yield savings account with Ally Bank, I think the interest rate was like 2.4%.
Shit is
This
better
might
than
have
your
been
average bank anyway.
like a year ago. It was probably like 2.4%. I was getting maybe like, I don't know, $60 a month.
I was going to say,
in
is
interest.
this coming out on a monthly basis?
Every month they deposit interest into my account. Yep.
Okay. I like that.
Right.
I'm going to have to look into that.
My money's just sitting there, and it's like, if my money's sitting in a savings account, I want it working for me.
Right.
Wherever my money is, I want it working for me. That's my idea. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I think, like at a 2.4 interest rate, I was getting like $60 a month in my savings. Now, of course, the interest that you get in your savings is going to depend on how much you have in the account.
Yeah.
But now I think my interest rate is 3.4% on my Ally Bank, and I get about $171 a month in interest
That's nice.
of
Yes.
free money. I think at this point my savings has grown more than my investment account in the last year because the investments are not doing too hot. But like, I mean, I'm not. I mean, it's safe. My money's sitting there and it's growing for me, and I can take it out whenever I want. Like, it's a savings account. I can just transfer the money back.
Since there's no brick and mortar, do you have to transfer it back to the bank? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So to get the money out, you would just transfer it right back to your regular bank, and then go to the ATM, take the money out if you need it.
So what other secrets do you hold? Because this is new, the high yield savings account. So is there anything like any other tools people can use to have their money working for them while they're not working?
Right. So obviously there's going to be investments as well. Now investments is like a whole other ballpark. Yeah. But I just don't recommend investing if you can't afford to lose money. So, if you have high interest debt and you don't have a sufficient emergency fund built up, we're going to prioritize those things before investing. I never want to put people in a position of investing money that they actually can't afford to lose. Right. Because when investing, that comes with risk, higher risk, higher reward. But yeah, so in general, and so I would say, definitely like investing for our midterm goals. Like another thing is like a lot of people think that when you're investing, you should be investing for like, I don't know, something you want to do this summer. That's not the case. You should be investing for a minimum of 5 years. 5 to 10 years. I mean, the longer you're invested, the more return you're going to see on your money. Right. Investing is a long-term game. It's not a short-term game.
Yeah, it takes money to make money. Exactly. And you have to continue to pour into it in order to see what you want. Exactly. In return. I did have a question. Shit. Yes. I just lost it.
Damn.
God.
So,
what you were saying.
I was just talking about like the investment accounts in general. That's another thing. But that comes second to first building a strong foundation. Yeah. Like when planning, I'm not an investment advisor, I'm a planner. And so when planning for people's futures, I'm not going to tell them to do things, like I said, if they can't afford to lose money. We're going to take care of the foundational aspects before we move on to the next step, right? Yeah. So, like, in the first meeting when I'm having with people, I always or not the first meeting, but the second meeting that I have with people is just financial literacy and education. I take every single one of my clients through a financial literacy and education meeting. And that's because I'm super transparent.
There's my question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so financial literacy, as we said earlier, it's a huge problem. Not only here in Allentown, but in America. Most people don't understand how money works. Where do you think we need to be learning this? Do you prioritize it more of a home thing, a school thing, a combination of both? How do you feel about that? Because I agree. I grew up poor. My mom worked 3 jobs. There was no dad. And my mom made just enough to keep the lights on a lot of the time. And sometimes we didn't even have lights. So, I'm like the first of my mom's children to pretty much have something of their own and to build something. Right. And a lot of that came from my own, 1, mistakes, and 2, just applying myself to learn something new so that way I can get something I've never had. So, to kind of keep people out of the same boat we were both in, where it's like we have to teach ourselves. Who do you think this responsibility should, be given to?
Honestly, I think we should be learning this stuff in school for sure. I think, basic math in general, like math class, they should try to find a way to like tie finances in general to it, or at least monthly budgeting. Like that's something so simple. They count
money to learn how to do
right.
Math, so.
And it's like, I don't know. I really think like in general, at least in high school, there should literally be like a financial literacy / like life course where not only do people learn about money and how money works and the different tools and resources available to them, but they also learn about like, applying for a credit card, buying versus leasing a car,
talk that shit.
Buying a home versus renting an apartment.
Right.
These are like life choices that people literally, they need guidance on. They don't know who to turn to. You know what I mean? And most people I see these days are turning to freaking TikTok for advice. And it's like...
Wait. You can't throw shade at social media, though. I've learned a lot from
there's
social
a lot
media.
of nuggets on social media. But what I will say is that social media and the advice that's on social media or that you may be finding on social media does not know you, They don't know your situation.
They don't know your state.
They don't know your state. They don't know how much money you make. Yeah. They don't know your overall goals. They don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
And so you have to take that advice with a grain of salt, is what I tell people. Well, there's a lot of, I think I learned about a high yield savings account on social media. Yeah. That is how I originally learned about it, like years ago.
Change
I'm almost
your algorithms,
positive.
people. Change your algorithms.
So, in general, there's a lot of great nuggets, but what I tell people is TikTok and Instagram and social media does not know you. They don't know your goals. They don't know a lot of things about you. So you have to just take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, that makes sense. So I got a question. So it's tax time.
Right.
All right. You're going to have a whole bunch of people.
I have a lot of people getting their tax returns.
Over the next couple weeks, months, getting their taxes. What should these people do with their money? Most people go out and buy a new TV, might get a car, might pay some back rent, you know what I mean, that they owe. Right. But how can these people make that $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 that they're about to get, that chunk of change? How can they make it work for them? Or some advice for those people. I don't even want to give advice because everybody's take it. You can give it.
Everybody's situation is different. So what one person might, I have clients who are taking their income tax and they're maxing out their Roth IRA, but that's because they already have a fully funded emergency fund and no debt, right? So then there's also other clients who are taking their income tax and fully funding their emergency fund or putting a huge chunk towards it.
So let's do it like this.
There's a lot of things that go into.
You're broke with $4,000 in debt, but you got a $5,000 bill coming in your tax return. What should I do with that money?
What I would say is you definitely need savings, right? Because the idea of an emergency fund too is so that if shit hits the fan, you're not going back into debt. We don't want to be on that hamster wheel right there of getting out of debt and getting back into debt. So definitely putting some money towards your savings is going to be essential if you have debt. But if you have high interest debt, you should be putting a huge chunk to pay that off. Because I also know people with high interest debt and they're like, oh my God, I've been paying on this and it's just not moving because of the interest. Just get a chunk of it paid off.
You want to know my secret?
And also, when it comes to debt, 0% balance transfer credit cards.
I was going to say, you can try that too. Our secret, honestly, the pandemic was God's gift to us. It's crazy.
Took all your
well, go ahead. Say what you were going to say.
I was going to say, did you guys take all the checks, the stimulus checks, and put them towards your debt or something?
No, we didn't do that. At the time, I had stopped being a truck driver, and we were in the process of opening up the business. So that was pretty much just holding down the fort, just paying the lights and stuff like that. But what we did was we weren't able to pay. We didn't have enough at the time because we made a big investment into a business. So we didn't have the money to pay any of these credit cards. Now, I'm not recommending this, but it did work. So I am going to tell people.
What?
So we didn't pay the credit card companies. We took that they basically allowed us to, what is it called? Do you know what it's called? Where you don't have to pay them.
It goes into collections?
No. That's after they want their money back and you ain't paying them. But they allowed us to not pay them for a certain amount of time because of COVID. It was like a COVID relief thing.
And that's literally a once in a lifetime type of thing. That's not a normal thing.
But I still have people who are pretty much in the same state that they were in back in 2020, still in the same state today. And what my wife and I did, we didn't pay them. And then when that 8 months was up and they started to say, hey, we want our money back, we were like, okay, well, how much do we owe you? And what they wanted was a huge lump sum because they had given us 8 months off. So we just didn't pay them. And then eventually they started to send the collection letters. So then we called them and we said, hey, I don't have the money that you're expecting and I cannot afford to pay off this $3,000 budget. But I do have $1,000 here that I can send you if you're willing to settle on the account. A lot of people think, I know people personally that went through settlement agencies and it didn't work out for them. But I want people to know that you can settle your own debts as well with these credit card companies. You're not obligated to pay them all back. Because you end up on the hamster wheel and a lot more people end up in that situation than ever getting out.
Right. So I don't recommend settling at all, actually. No. Because that actually hurts your score just as much.
Because
when you go to let's say get a car or get approved for another mortgage or something like that, they're going to see that you borrowed money and didn't pay all of it back.
Yeah.
So it's not going to look as good versus if you borrowed it and paid it all back, right? So I am not a fan of settling, and I would honestly never recommend someone to settle.
Shoot, I got a story and a half for you then.
But that is, I mean, that's coming from like me as an advisor. I would never tell somebody to just settle on your credit card debt. That's just me though.
So you think they should pay it all back?
Yes. And well, the first step is don't spend money that you don't have.
That's the most important thing here.
Like you should.
That's the best advice on this show so far.
And I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people get into credit card debt because they don't. You should treat your credit cards like debit cards. Don't spend if you can. If it's not on your debit card, you can't afford to spend it on your credit card. So that's step one. But I know a lot of people tend to like, they don't follow that, and so then they splurge. Yeah, they splurge. That's literally the only way to put it is they splurge. And they're just like, oh, they think that money is all theirs when really it's not. It's not. Yeah, it's available. You have a available credit limit, but you shouldn't be using all of it. Only use what you can actually afford to pay off.
That makes sense. So after we started to settle with these cards, our credit scores took a big hit, and they dropped a whole bunch of points. But for us personally, it was like, the last thing we need to do right now is any more spending. And in a matter of another like 8 months went by, and then our credit scores went right back up. So, I understand the hit. I understand the advice.
Right. And it's going to stay on your credit report for a little bit.
I'm not worried about that.
But
me personally, for anybody that's out there listening, if your situation isn't exactly like mine, you're probably not going to be as fortunate. But
right.
The best advice you gave was don't spend money you don't have.
Right. That's the simplest part. Don't spend money you don't have.
So, as far as like knowing where to, well, you said you don't handle investing. So when you do.
Like I'm investment licensed. Okay. Yeah. So I have clients doing investments with me.
So where do you tell the people to put their money? Like, do you advise them like, okay, right now, stocks isn't a very good game, but maybe we can use an IRA instead.
Why aren't stocks a good game?
Well, no, I'm just saying this is just an example. The stocks are down, but
it's a great time to invest.
It is because everything's down, but if you don't have money to lose, then
right. If you don't have money to lose,
if you don't have money to lose. So that's what I'm saying. Like, are you keeping an eye on these things when you're like, hey, maybe that might not be the best?
So in general, when it comes to like investing, I recommend my clients to invest in something called mutual funds. So mutual funds are basically
something new.
Basically a pool of stocks. So very similar to like index funds or something like that. A mutual fund in general, when you invest in one mutual fund, you are getting exposure to over 300 different companies.
Is this kind of like an S&P?
It's very similar.
Okay.
But a mutual fund is going to be actively managed.
Okay.
So there are professional investment managers picking and choosing which stocks and which companies to buy and sell more of in this portfolio. Okay? So they're doing the hard work for you of doing all the research on these companies and stuff like that. And we pick, so every one of my clients, when we do investments, we do a risk tolerance questionnaire. So I'm asking them questions that they've never heard in their life about, like, and then they're really figuring out, like, how risky they want to be with their investments.
Yeah.
And then from there on, that's how we determine which mutual fund would work best for them based on their risk tolerance. And so in general, though, a mutual fund is going to give you diversification. It's going to be actively managed. I personally invest in a mutual fund every month. I like to tell people it's like the lazy way of investing.
Where do you get these things from? The lazy way of investing.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, investing's investing.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, you work a 9 to 5, you work 40 hours a week. You don't have time, and I don't even have time to wake up every day and check the stock market and do all the professional investment manager or portfolio managers that manage this fund. They do that every day.
Is this like a free service?
Mutual funds in general.
Well, like to have somebody like basically it be automated for you.
Yeah. So I personally invest in a mutual fund every month. And so what happens is when you invest in a mutual fund, there's going to be a fee. So basically it's like paying a cover charge to get into a club. So that's how I kind of like to explain it. So
that's a good example.
For example, the fee on a mutual fund might be 5.75%. So let's say I'm investing $100 a month, $5.75 if the fee's 5.75%. $5.75 of that $100 that I'm investing every month into the mutual fund
It's going back
is going to the fund managers.
Yeah.
That $5.75 goes to them. They're getting paid to manage the mutual fund and all these things.
And that's a monthly thing that gets pulled.
Yeah, and I have clients who automate their investments where, let's say I have one client who she was investing for like, let's say it was like $150 for like the past 6 months, and then she was going through a job switch / change.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, "Can we pause it for 2 months and then resume it again in 2 months?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Sure. We'll pause your investments. We'll pause your contributions. When you're ready, let me know. We can just start them again."
So do they continue to pull that fee out, even though it's on pause?
So no. Nope. There is an annual fee for a mutual fund. So it's called a front load sales charge. That 5.75% fee is called a front load sales charge. So basically, you're paying a cover to get in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, though, when you pull out the money, when you pull out of your mutual funds or take the money out of your investment accounts, you're not going to pay a fee when you pull out the money because you paid one on the way in.
Yeah,
correct.
Okay. So what happens if your portfolio isn't making money? Then what?
So in general, I mean, if your portfolio is down, I mean, investments come with higher risk, higher reward. So there's going to be points where your portfolio is down. That's just what happens when you invest. Okay. But in general, like I tell my clients all the time, investing is a long-term game. We're not investing for tomorrow. We're not investing for next month or next year. We're investing for 5 years from now. So give it time.
Yeah.
Be patient.
Everything takes time to develop.
And just don't look at it.
Money. And don't look at
I don't look at my investment. I mean, I do. And sometimes I'm like, damn. Like last a few months ago, I looked at my Roth IRA. I lost $2,000 in it. My investment account, I lost $800. It could be worse though.
Yeah.
But in general,
$800 to lose.
Right. Like in general, it could be worse. And what I tell my clients all the time, and even for myself, is like when the stock market's down, I always like to give this analogy. Do you like buying things on sale?
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
I'm very cheap.
Who doesn't like buying things on sale, right? I love buying things on sale. And so what I tell people is when the stock market's down or there's a recession or something like that, all it means is that stocks are on sale. It's actually the best time to invest.
Right.
We're buying more shares and stuff like that of companies at a lower cost in a way. So you're buying more for less in a sense when you invest when the stock market's down.
So do you have like your own portfolio that you manage as far as stocks?
I don't invest in individual stocks. I invest in mutual funds.
Why don't you do individual stocks?
I just don't. I believe in being well diversified. So
okay,
that's just my philosophy.
Okay, did you learn that in school or is that just a personal
thing? I was a personal financial planning major in college. I went to Kutztown, class of 2022. Kutztown University.
You're fresh out the gates.
Yep.
2022.
So in general, I did learn that in school. I learned about mutual funds and stuff like that, but also in my career and from the professionals that I work with.
Do you have any advice for parents, even with young kids, as far as preparing them for a world that they're eventually going to have to be set loose into?
That's hard. Okay, so in general, advice in what sense? Like specifically?
Managing money. The importance of knowing how money works, anything that you have to offer.
Oh my God!
Something that you wish somebody told you when you were younger. So
it's so funny because I asked all my colleagues this question today. I literally asked them. I said, "What advice would you give your younger self?"
Yeah. Goes full circle.
Oh my God! I just wish. I literally said, if I knew then. In high school when I started working, if I knew then what I know now, oh my God, I would be so rich. I mean, I'm still like, I'm doing really well for myself, but I'm like, oh my God, the things that I know now, it would have made a huge difference. I would say when it comes to like, as parents in general, money management, I mean, obviously is super important, like savings and stuff. I think everybody needs an emergency fund and all these, simple things in place. But as a parent in general, when you have like someone else to think of, let's talk about life insurance.
Oh yeah, this is something I wanted to cover. Life insurance.
You need to have life insurance.
Yes.
I don't care if you're a parent or not.
It is cheap. It is cheap.
It is like,
and we're all gonna die.
That there's 3 things in life that are guaranteed: death, taxes, and 99-cent Arizona iced tea.
No. I
don't even know if it's...
The cans are still 99 cents. That's it, though.
Right.
The bottles are like $1.29. They finessing us. You get less juice, and you got to pay
the cans.
30 cents more.
So, in general, though, I don't care who you are. Like, I don't care if you have kids or not. I don't have kids. I still have life insurance. And that, as a parent, I mean, it becomes like 10 times more important that you have it. But regardless, like I said, like, we're literally, like you said, we're all going to die. We're all going to die. And nobody knows when they're going to die. And nobody wants to talk about that. I always tell people, this is
going to be my next question.
I always tell people the foundational part of planning is not the sexy part of financial planning.
Why you say that?
Because no one wants to talk about, what if I die? Or what's going to happen to my kids if I die? Who's going to get them? Do you have guardianship for your kids? Do you have a will? Do you have any of these things?
Yeah, nobody thinks about
right? That. Nobody wants to talk about those things. Nobody wants to talk about how am I going to pay my bills if I get disabled?
I never thought about that. I thought about death. But
many people don't think about these things, and those are things that I'm bringing to light in our conversations, and it's normal to not think about it. Like,
who the fuck is expecting?
No one is thinking about that, right? But the reality is, most people don't think about it until it's too late. And then they're like, oh my God, how could I have avoided this or something like that? Or how could I have planned for this? This is why you need an advisor.
This is why
you need an advisor, because we're going to talk about the risk management side of planning. Like I said, the not sexy part. And then we're going to talk about the wealth accumulation. That's the sexy part. That's the investing part.
How do you feel about, speaking of life insurance, how do you feel about those accounts where you can have life insurance, but it's also kind of used as a savings
Cash
account?
Rally life insurance?
Yeah. How do you feel about those?
Absolutely. It should be used as a tool in your financial plan, only if, though, you have the other foundational pieces in place.
Okay.
And, you know, and if we're maxing out our workplace benefits, like if we have a 401k with a match or Roth IRA, we should be doing other things, prioritizing other things first. But I believe it has a place in everybody's plan.
Do you have a preference of the two, whether it's traditional or?
I would say I always tell people, and this is something that we go over in our financial literacy meeting, we go over the two types, what the differences are between the two. Excuse me. And in general, I always tell people there's no right or wrong answer to which one is better than the other, right?
Okay.
There's obviously differences between the two, but really it depends on the specific person, the situation, and the overall financial picture and what they want to accomplish. Like, it really, a lot of things come into play, right? So it's different for everybody. But I would say that there's no right or wrong. Long term, though, absolutely, cash value makes more sense long term. But if we're looking for a short term solution, you know, cheaper, stuff like that, just to cover like any like debt and final expenses today, you know, term might make more sense.
Yeah.
So it really just depends. And I don't know until I sit down with people what's going to make more sense for them. Sometimes a combination of the two.
I didn't know you can do combinations of the two. When we got life insurance, I was just one or the other. That's all it was for me.
Yep.
Do you talk to people about how to know how much money to insure themselves for?
Yep. So that's one of the things that we're going over in general. So this is one of the ways. So in general, I mean, with all the silly things that people spend money on, I'm like, just get $1 million of life insurance. It's so cheap. It's cheaper the younger and healthier you are, and especially for term. I mean, for me, for $1 million, I pay $34 a month. It's super cheap. Like, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do it, right? Yeah. Not because I need that.
Wow.
Not because I need it today, right? I don't have any kids. I don't have any debt. I don't have any of that. But I know in the future, I want a family. I want to buy a house.
Do you have a will?
I personally do not have a will, but I do have beneficiaries for all of my accounts.
I was going to say, so who's going to get the money?
Yeah, I have beneficiaries for everything. I have beneficiaries for literally my savings, my bank accounts, my Roth IRA, my life insurance. I have beneficiaries for everything.
That's what's up.
But will comes more, I would say a will is 10 times more important when you have kids. Like, because you want to establish guardianship for, God forbid something happen.
Yeah. Who's taking what?
Not only who's taking what, but, you know, in general for your life insurance, if you wanted to go to your kids, if they're minors, who's going to be the trustee? Mm-hmm. Who's going to hold this money until they're 21, right? Or
this doesn't make you panicked in any way, shape, or form? Because
thinking about these things?
Yeah, it's easy when the problems aren't yours. It's easy. It's like I have a really good time fixing other people's problems. When it's my shit, when it's my problems, I'm like, dog, I don't want to deal with none of this. Like, you know. So
Right.
how does that feel? You know, you sit here and you get to help people establish themselves and build foundations and help them with their issues. You know, being
So,
somebody.
oh wow. I mean, most time it feels awesome because well, I'm not telling people like, oh, like, you need to get this because you might die. Like, I'm not putting it like that, but I'm telling them like, listen, like, you said that God forbid you weren't here, you want to make sure that your kids' college is paid for. You want to make sure the house is paid off. All these things, right? We want to make sure that all these things happen, right? And so that's why you need it. That your why, coming back to the why, really just relating it to why we're doing it, right? And so in general, I mean, personally, it doesn't make me panic because I'm like, I don't know. I talk about it with people every day. And really, I'm helping people, relieving people from financial anxiety and stress. These are the things that keep people up at night. Like,
Yeah.
what would happen to my family? How would the show go on if I wasn't here, right? Or what happened if I couldn't work, right, and became disabled? Like, how would I put food on the table? Like, these are things that people, don't think about, but these are problems that I help people solve. And so it's really rewarding. And I have people all the time, like, they'll message me after, like, whatever, like they're a client, they'll message me and be like, thank you so much for reaching out to me. Like, I never would have ever thought about these things or planned for these things. And now I know that with you, my family and my kids, we're going to be all right, no matter what happens, because we have, a plan for the what ifs, but we also have plans for the fun stuff that we talked about.
Big facts.
So
if people wanted to work with you personally, do they go through your job or do they connect with you? You know, how does that whole process go?
So if people want to work with me personally, they can reach out to me. I don't bite. So in general, and I want to talk about this because I think it's super important because I get this question a lot. I am not a fee-based advisor.
That was going to be the next question.
I'm not a fee-based advisor, and a lot of people, I think that's also why they're maybe hesitant to reach out is because they think they have to pay me.
Yeah.
I do not charge for my time, so we can go through the entire client onboarding experience of getting to know you, getting to know your goals, the financial literacy meeting, and then ultimately me showing you your plan. You don't pay for any of that. You don't pay for any of that.
So what's your excuse?
Right.
What's your excuse getting the ball rolling?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, there are advisors out there who do charge for their time. There are fee-based advisors.
We're not helping them today. We're helping you guys. And you.
I don't see value in the fee-based just because I'm trying to impact as many people as possible.
I was going to say,
wouldn't make sense.
It comes from a place of, like you said, like...
Because I could
care
act
about
as,
these people, you know what I mean? Like, I think about these people when I'm not even working with them. It shows the level of compassion and love that you have, not only for the job, but for the people that you're trying to empower.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's dope.
Yep.
That's dope. There's very few people that do what they love to do.
Yep.
You know, I spent a lot of years doing shit that I didn't want to do out of one, necessity, or two, responsibility, whatever the case may be. But it's really hard to find people that get to do what they love to do, and then they have the same reaction as you. It's like, yo, I love to do this shit.
Right. Right. I love it. I truly love it.
If there was anything else you could be doing, what would you do?
Traveling the world. I mean, I still do travel, but like if I could just travel like all the time, I would. I think that is my why is really like my family and my mom, but in general, like the reason like I work so hard too is because like the lifestyle that I desire is like, I mean, I just want more time, more free, like the more money you have, you buy back your time. You know what I mean? And time is the real freedom. Yeah. And so if I could have more time to travel and do like fun things like that, or take my family on vacations, or go on vacations, like more vacations with my friends and just seeing the world, that's personally what I would love.
Why do you like to travel so much?
Oh my God, I don't know. I love to try new foods. I love to see like different places, immerse in different cultures. Like I love that.
Do you stay on the resorts the entire time?
No, I mean it depends where I go, really. But no, I do like to get off the resort. Yeah. Yeah. I like to get with the locals.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Some places you hear bad shit about.
Depends where I am.
Yeah.
Depends.
All right, so Mexico.
I went off the resort there. Yeah. Yes, I did.
Dominican Republic.
Went off the resort there. Yep.
Puerto Rico.
My family's from Puerto Rico, so yes.
Have you Europe?
Europe, never been.
Never been to Europe. Africa.
Never been.
Anywhere in South America?
No, actually.
Canada.
Never been.
Oh,
I've been to a lot of like islands. Like I'm going to the Bahamas this summer.
so Caribbean type stuff. Yeah, that's typically like the starting point.
I want to go to I want to go to Greece. I want to go to like Bali, Thailand. I want to go to like a lot of different places, but gotta start somewhere. Gotta start somewhere.
The more you travel though, the more motivation it gives you to just like the next one.
Like this is why I work so hard for me, is because I want to see the world.
It's huge. It's huge. I think because where we come from, the situations that we're born into, sometimes even our parents, we have a mindset of, as children, we get to think as big as we want, and then at some point we start getting all these outside influences, and they start to make you feel like, this is what reality looks like. It looks like working every day to the bone and having just enough to maybe go see a movie and or a beer or a pack of beer, whatever the case may be. But I think people in general forgot how to dream. Forgot how to dream. And that shit's so essential to me because, there was a time in our life that's all we did was just imagine, all the shit that we're going to be able to do when we get older. Yep. And then, so.
And then you get older and you're like, damn, I got bills to pay. Yeah. I got all this stuff. Like, what the hell?
All the responsibilities.
Right.
I try to tell kids now, like, because I don't know, because I said my wife and I, we own a daycare. Right. I don't know what it's like when they go home. So when they're in our care, we do that. We empower them. We tell them, dream as big as you can. But I also try to remind them, like, enjoy this time of being a child. Yes. And it's simply because, I don't know what type of influences they're going to run into. They could hear one thing from me and then go home and get all that shit shot down. And this is the one time of their life where they should be able to dream. And things like that. It's really dope that you're giving people the opportunity to be able to dream again, because that's what you're doing. Yes. Regardless of whether you realize it, that's what you're doing.
I love it. I love it so much. Like, and I have people like I'm like basically like I'm kind of like a unpaid for the therapist work that I do. But I love it. Like I would say like 99% of the time, the meetings that I'm having with clients, it's like 85% of the time we're talking about just life. Like we're just catching up, talking about life, sometimes even crying to each other. Yeah. Like,
okay, you are a therapist.
Like literally. And then the other 10% we're like, all right, so what were we meeting about today? Let's get to the money. Let's talk about like what the agenda, right? Let's get back on track. And that's for like 10, 15 minutes. But the other 90% of our meeting is just like life. Like, but I swear.
I understand though. I understand why it would shake out that way.
I'm one of the most important people in a lot of people's lives.
It makes sense. Like, you're the thing that's gonna take them from here to here. So
and not only like making sure that their family's taken care of, like people trust me with a lot of things that they don't even tell their family members. And it just go like, it makes me want to cry, but like, it just like, it makes me really, it makes me, second or the third. Makes me super duper happy when like, I'm like, wow, like I'm really changing people's lives. And I'm literally like one of the people that are at the center of their lives. And they, they trust me so much. They, I don't know, just the connections that I build with my clients is like so special to me. So special to me.
That's so dope. That's so dope. That's what I try to do.
I think of them all the time.
I like, don't think about all the guests all the time.
Oh my God. I think about my clients all the time. Like I already told you, I was thinking about one on the way here. Like, I'm like, I need to shoot her a text. I can just see like how she's doing, catch up with her. I think about them every day. Every day.
Do people in your life, like in your personal life, tell you like, yo, turn it off?
Oh my God. All the time. Yeah? All the time. My friends are like, Nessa, you work too much. Just no work for the weekend. No work, put the laptop away. Don't open your email. And I'm like, but I have so much to do. Like I need to get back to this person. Like I'm thinking, they're like, it can wait.
Do you feel like it's hard to relax because you are the person that you are?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It is very hard to relax because I'm the person I am. Like, and I have a hard time saying no. Like I have a hard time, if a client messages me on the weekend, yeah. They're my priority. Yeah. So to me, I'm like, well, I need to get back to them as soon as possible, even though it's the weekend.
But I imagine you have great relationships with these people, and it's because of things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely hard to, like, turn it off sometimes, but I don't know. It's all worth it to me, for real. Like,
it seems like it. I mean, you're about to. I seen the eyes watering.
like
So.
I really like. I'm like, I love them. I love them. I love them so much.
That's what's up. So, like, do you like? Is it just solely like a work thing, or like these relationships are they going past work? Like when they go in there and they tell you your story, like, are you going to their cookouts and stuff like that?
Hell yeah!
Yeah.
Oh my god! Oh
That's
my!
what's up.
Oh my god! Yesterday, my one client, she's getting married. She just messaged me and was like, "Hey, send me your email so I can send you an invitation to the wedding." So I'm going to my one client's
That's
wedding.
awesome.
My other client, her birthday was last August. I went to California with her. My other client, she's from DC. Her family actually lives in Jersey.
Oh, so you work with people that aren't even in this area.
Yeah, I have clients in multiple states all over the country.
Okay.
You know, literally from California to Pennsylvania. Like,
So there's
all
no
over.
excuse. There's
Literally.
no excuse.
Literally. And so with Zoom these days and everything being virtual, like, oh my God, I can pick up the phone and talk to anybody at any time. But like my one client, she's from DC and her family is from Jersey. So last summer, she was like, oh, for 4th of July, her family was having a cookout in Jersey. She was coming up for the weekend, for 4th of July weekend, and she invited me to the cookout. And turns out she also has family that lives in Easton, PA, which is not far.
Yeah.
So I went to the cookout. So, like, I'm always with them.
Yeah.
I'm literally always with them.
That's really
like,
dope.
almost all of my plans revolve around hanging out with them. But that's fine with me. Like, they keep me so busy. And like, I'm like, I always have stuff to do. Like, they're always like, do you want to come to this? Do you want to come to that? I'm like, hell yeah.
That's
I'm like, you better, as long as you're doing your saving, yes, I'm going to go.
I respect that. It does feel really good to realize that it's not just a work thing. Like, I'm actually building real connections with people. We get invited out to like a lot of the kids' birthday parties.
Right.
We got invited to our first wedding.
Get Christmas cards for my clients. Like, I get all those.
Or they'll give us like Valentine's Day gifts and things like that. It makes you feel good because it's not like. It makes all those days where it's really hard or stressful. It makes it all worth it. It's like, you know, I'm doing something. Regardless of whether I'm being hard on myself, I'm doing something that matters. So that's dope. That's really dope.
Yep.
You got anything? You got anything else you want to say? We're at the hour.
Oh my God.
It flies by, right?
Like, we're just talking. Like, it doesn't even like.
That's why I love this. That's why I love this because people. I tell people all the time when they're nervous, like. Look, the camera's gonna be there, but you're not even gonna worry about it. You're gonna forget the camera's there. You're gonna get the ball's gonna.
We're
get
so
rolling.
like in conversation. Like,
yeah,
I'm like,
it's a lot.
I didn't even realize how much time went by.
That's why I love this because I love to talk to people. That's like one of my favorite things to do. And I'm like, okay, so what can I do that I'm good at?
I was just talking to my other client the other day. I actually saw my other client when I was bowling the other day. Like literally 2 nights ago, I was bowling and I ran into my one client, and we were just talking about. I was helping him set up his high yield savings account actually, like the day before, and we were talking about like how much I had in my savings account. And what did he say?
You disclose that with your with people? Yeah.
I show people my plan all the time and what I'm doing. Yeah.
That I respect
because
that.
what I do,
how you gonna push something if
right,
you're not even
exactly, and they're like, oh wow, and it motivates them, and like I'm very transparent. Like I always tell people, like anything that I tell you to do, I'm also doing myself.
Yeah,
like I'm not just telling you to do this like because you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh my bad.
No, it's all right. We went past the hour. It's all right. This last section will be in the
if
audio.
anything,
yeah.
Yeah. So
is there? Well,
really, I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with this. But oh my God, where was I going with this? That I was talking to my one client. I forget where I was going with it. But in general, I love what I do. They are literally like my best friends. They keep me so busy. I care about them so much. I care about their families. I care about where they're going and keeping them accountable for their goals. And that's really why I do what I do.
I respect that. I respect that a lot. It's like I said, it's so hard to find people that love what they do. So when you do, you know what I mean? You know you're getting the best version of them every single time. And I can tell you care a lot about the people that you help, you know, and it means a lot, and it's very impactful on you.
I have such a big heart for them. Like I'm like, they are my soft spot. Literally.
Is there anything that you would like to say to the people before we go?
The best time to start planning for your future was yesterday. The second best time to start is today.
There's no time like the present.
Yes.
No time like the present. Hey, thank you. I really appreciate you coming up here to talk with me and share some knowledge with me because I learned 2 new things today. So I'm really grateful because every day I try to learn at least 1 new thing. You told me 2. So now I don't got to read no book. But thank you again.
Yes.
And for all you guys out there, I really hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm gonna need all the links that you can give me so I can put it in the description so people know how to reach you. And yeah, listen, she works with people everywhere across the United States. So get out here, like she said, start yesterday. And if you can't, start today. Connect with her. And at the very least, just get a little bit of insight. You know, you might not even have to work with her on a regular basis, but she clearly knows what the hell she's talking about. But listen, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you're still amongst the stars. Peace.
I've been on my grind just to live it out. Say what's on your mind just to hear it loud. Everybody knows me, really that's the old me. Going through some changes right here and now.